Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Chilluminati podcast. Smitty says hello as well. Episode 290. As always, I'm one of your hosts, Mike Martin. Today, joined by the John Rzeznik and Robbie Takak of LA, Jesse and Alex. It's the lead singer and guitarist and the bassist of the Goo Goo Dolls, because I'm on a massive Goo Goo Dolls.
I'm sorry, what'd you call Rzeznik?
Rzeznik? It's R-Z-E-Z-N-I-K. Sorry. Resnick? Okay, got it. Sorry.
So I was like, who's Resnick?
So you want to know something also? This is why maybe me and Alex need to do a couple episodes just for Patreon. I also have zero music experience in my entire life.
Really?
Guitar actually opened the door to it, and because it made it interactive, and I love playing, but I really have music was.
What do you mean by? Hold on. What do you mean by this?
Listen, you know those sci-fi stories from like the Ray Bradbury era of short stories where the plot is just some naked dude gets really smart and he learns things, realizes things.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No,
then he writes a diary, and there's a diary that's written in it's like an Outer Limits or a Twilight Zone type plot, and then you read Mathis's tweet about guitar and what has changed in his brain as guitar has seeped into his brain, and he's like, before music was merely noise.
It was.
And so
it was.
It's not just even I didn't really care about mute. Right. Yeah. But you did, but you now do understand actually the concept.
No, I understand. I truly understand why it's special, I need to play it for that. Go ahead,
hold on.
Go ahead.
What is your baseline? What
growing up, what I listen to?
I mean, I'm just want to know what music do you, because in my mind, when you say growing up, I imagine you just listened to Weird Al.
I had one Weird Al CD.
I'm picturing him listening to
probably the 4 CDs I owned my whole life.
Okay, what are they?
They were the very first ones I can remember were.
Wait. I want to just
I think we've talked about this
I think it's 3 a.m. I'll think I'm real. Like that type of shit is my guess.
Eve 6 stuff?
Like Train.
I don't know if you'll be able to. It'll be interesting.
Counting Crows. Yeah.
Counting Crows. No, it wasn't Counting Crows. I remember I was 16 and I bought a radio, a stereo set, because I thought I was that was normal. I was like, that's a normal thing what kids do. Even though I didn't listen to music, and I bought 3 CDs. I had Astro Lounge by Smash Mouth.
Dude. Okay.
Love that.
Yeah. Great classic.
I think it was the Will Smith.
Another
CD.
Whoa, okay.
Those were the 2.
We both had both of these in our collections at this time.
Same. Big same.
Okay, so that's pretty freaking normal.
What was 3?
I had the Creed CD with the Clay guy coming
I never
up.
had Creed.
Oh, I mean, I was
Creed was never my bag.
I was in the land of Creed for sure.
The secret 18th track. Yeah. And then I had Linkin Park, the Hybrid Theory.
Classic.
Some big one, the platinum record.
Your music preferences and stylings are late 90s, early 2000s. That's what you grew up with.
Because my mom. So my mom. Keep this in mind. My mom was 20 when she had me. Very Gen X. Very typical, kind of rebellious Gen X underneath. So there's a lot of the songs I'm rediscovering through guitar are all 90s, early 2000s, alt rock, indie pop, that kind of stuff. And this is another one
where
I'm
stuff. Sure.
I knew these songs, but I didn't know they were Goo Goo Dolls and whatnot.
But you have Goo Goo Dolls is more mid, early 90s.
Yeah.
So you don't have a lot of foundation when it comes to even older stuff.
No,
you're not
zero.
So Stones, Beatles, Zeppelin,
Beach Boys.
You don't have any of that.
I was really first introduced
Bee Gees.
I knew of them, obviously, and I could probably pick out a song or two just from osmosis.
Marvin Gaye,
I was first introduced to that kind of music through Guitar Hero.
Interesting.
I was gonna say also Jess has really good taste in music.
Yes,
for the most part.
Right, she's a music
But so you would say your focus on music is alt rock of a very confined 10-year period.
Yeah,
is what I'm learning.
Yeah, there's a couple.
And then everything else is freeform. Everything else is available.
He's finding out.
Literally, I discovered a couple songs that I'm assuming people know, but I didn't. They're very poppy songs by the Tones, I think they were called. That's new to me.
Deftones?
No. It's
just
a
band
very
called
poppy,
the Tones?
almost clubby sounding song.
Can I recommend you some music, Mathis?
I mean, yeah, sure.
Okay, I'm gonna
a lot
recommend
of Green
some
Day.
music.
A lot of Green Day. As well. I know Green Day very well.
I'm gonna like ride your vibe and like try and meet you in the middle.
All right.
You should listen to Pavement.
Never heard of them.
You should listen to The Magnetic Fields.
Also never heard of them, but that
you are picking pure indie.
Yeah, no, but they're not.
They are.
Like, well, they are, but they're like
they're indie.
At this point, like almost the Beatles of that time. Like, okay,
no, not even
Pavement,
remote.
The Magnetic Fields, Neutral Milk Hotel.
Oh no, I've never heard of any of these things.
And Echo and the Bunnymen. Okay.
All right. I don't know. I'm interested. I'm gonna go look. I'll go look them up after.
And you guys at home, you Gen Xers and millennials who listen to the Arcade Fire, like chime in. Let me know what you guys think about this.
No, there's only one thing Mathis needs to listen to, and that's Zoot Suit Riot by Cherry Poppin' Daddies.
I know that song.
And then what's the one on the Weird Al? It's like, I'm getting tired of my big fat rear.
Is that it? I don't know, man. I had the Weird Al song that had Albuquerque on it. Whatever one that one was.
Dude, that's the best one. That's is it called Albuquerque? No.
Oh no, the album isn't, but I don't know what the album was called.
Oh, that's the best. That's the best one.
I've been trying to learn,
not Dare to Be Stupid.
My last bit of music thing before we can move on. I've been trying to learn Name as of last night from the Google Dolls. And the way that guitar is tuned is fucking absurd. The way he tunes it to play it. I don't know. Anybody who plays a guitar probably will understand, but it's D-A-E-A-E-E.
Oh, is that the one that's like ding, 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 ding?
Yeah, but like
that?
He tunes two of the strings so up. It's so tight that I've read so many stories of people snapping strings over and over and over while playing that song over time because of how he tunes the guitar for that.
That's the type of song that you write when you're either in a recording studio or there's a guy who comes to you while you're playing your show who like hands you a different guitar for 2 seconds so that you can play one fucking weird song and then comes back, takes it from you and gives you back your like nice little Gibson or whatever you're playing on because you're in the Goo Goo Dolls.
I think I ever heard the story is he said he was just bored and he was randomly tuning his guitar. Just
like you do.
Kind of just like messing the fuck around and then playing with it until he found something he liked that he sounded and then he like.
I mean, that's music, baby. Yeah.
I remember the Sonic Youth almost like gave up as a band because their tour like van got stolen or something.
Sonic Youth.
They're called the Sonic Youth. They're like in the Smashing Pumpkins, but like a little bit more cred than that.
Okay.
And like
I know some of them because I've been playing their songs.
Yeah. And they have so many songs that are like with weirdly tuned, like specially tuned guitars, and like they're like noise rock pioneers also. So just strange sounds. And then this fucking van got stolen and they were like, I don't know. They're like, how do we make this music anymore? I don't know. So it's like,
that's wild. Did you know this is kind of the story of the album American Idiot too?
No.
Before they had a whole album done called Cigarettes and Valentines. The album got stolen because somebody broke in and just like they don't even think they stole it because they weren't really that big yet. They just got robbed and they had it on a drive or whatever and it was gone. And he said, instead of redoing it, they said, fuck it. Let's just start from scratch. And they started again. But they have elements of Cigarettes and Valentines in American Idiot songs.
I must stress, Green Day was very, very popular. So they definitely made it.
Yeah.
Were they good. Yeah, I guess they would have been, right?
Yeah, Dookie was already
American
out.
Idiot was like my introduction to them, which is funny.
That was like their most mainstream album that they made,
Dookie
period.
Was,
I remember my mom being mad at me because I had the Dookie album and she was like, that means poopy. Jesse, what are you listening to? I was like,
my son's not gonna listen to an album.
Very different moms.
I loved listening to Snoop Dogg as a kid and my parents were like, that'll make you into a gang member. And now Snoop is like, hey everybody, I'm on
Martha
TV.
Stewart.
It's so crazy to me that people are like, you can't have Snoop Dogg.
I mean, I could probably.
By the time you were listening to him, he was already so mainstream.
Yeah, he was even I knew who he was. And that's a good marker if someone's popular or not. My mom would listen to like Alanis Morissette, like Jagged Little Pill all the fucking time, that entire album. And then my dad was like a secret stoner. So it was like, fucking Bob Marley and Fish, Grateful Dead, all that shit, while pretending he doesn't smoke weed.
Sure.
And that, my friends, is why you should learn how to play guitar, which you cannot do at patreon.com/chilluminatipod.
I mean, you could try.
Yeah.
But like, I bet if enough of you guys got together on there, you could make a little guitar club in the comments of the posts.
That'd be kind of cool.
That's kind of cool. Anyway, go check out patreon.com/ChilluminatiPod. There's all kinds of great stuff going on there. And it supports us and it keeps the show going. And what else is there to say about it? That's the best thing you can do.
Also head over to theyeti.com/Chilluminati.
Oh my God.
The Mothman.
Go get yourself a Mothman.
Is still up. I don't know when it goes off for sale, but I know it's a limited time thing. So
it's a limited thing, but we don't know exactly the date on that. I don't think yet.
I don't think
it's done
future,
yet.
But.
Yeah, but we have it. It doesn't ship for a little while, so hurry up and get on that because he's cute, and probably next time it'll be a different one.
Cool. Well, today's exciting because it's a rare special treat for you and me, Alex. We both get to take today off, and we get to hand the reins over to the science master, the man filled with logic.
The science master. I'm not going anywhere. First of all, I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying right here. I'm staying present today because I don't know if it was the last time you did an episode, but I'm still thinking about the Red Man. That was like the weirdest thing that you've ever told. That's one of the weirdest things that that was like an Assassin's Creed side quest.
Yeah.
That was like the weirdest thing I've ever heard. That was like from the game Indica. That's the weirdest thing I've ever heard.
That episode in particular was 2.5 years ago.
You know, what is time, man?
What is time? That often.
These siestas are getting shorter and shorter.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much to Hero Forge for sponsoring today's episode. And you've heard me talk about it before. I'm a huge nerd. I'm a tabletop RPG nerd. I have at-home games with my friends. I do live shows as well on the internet that you can find me at. I just have a huge collection of figurines at home because of it, and one of the main places I go for that, or I should say one of the main place I go to for that is Hero Forge. And over at Hero Forge, you can create a ton of unique minis to use within your own game, or if you're a DM, monsters to use on your characters, or if you just want mini statuettes of characters or creatures, you can do all of that. But I'm not going to sit here and talk about that website for too long, though use promo code CHILL on checkout. But instead, they also have a Kickstarter going that was already fully funded and still getting a ton more people to support it, which I suggest you go check out. The link will be in the description below. And that's for their Hero Forge custom dice. That's right. Now they've got all these custom figurines. You're going to be able to get custom dice with your own little things within them. You get to craft unique dice that reflect your character's remarkable story with Hero Forge custom dice. From cheese-filled D4s to D10s with a trusty familiar inside to extra large D20s with a full bust of your character's likeness. Each dice you design tells a story in every roll. Let's be real. Go check it out right now. Again, the link will be in the description below, but it's kickstarter.com/project/HeroForge. Easy as that. But again, the link will be in the description below. I love Hero Forge. I've used them for years. I've said it before. This is one of my dream, just partnerships just to work with these people. I absolutely love and adore the figures and the options they give you. So please, for the sake of obviously our show, but for the sake of yourself and Hero Forge, go check them out. You can literally build a character with their in-website tools for free before you even pull a trigger and buy anything. So go check it out. And again, go check out their Kickstarter. The link will be in the description below for their custom dice to add to that story that is just your own. Thank you again to Hero Forge for sponsoring today's episode. Jesse.
Yes.
What do you have for us today?
Well, it's a topic that I'm surprised we have never covered. It feels like we should. It is always up there in things that are in the weird and mysterious. And, admittedly, one of America's weirder things. Of course, I'm talking about Florida.
If this is what I think it is, this is real or fake. One of the most fascinating things that, the more you look into it, one of the most fascinating topics.
Yeah.
Is this
really
something
bizarre.
You talked about bringing up years ago to do as a topic on the show?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And eventually it was recommended by a bunch of people on the subreddit who were just like, why haven't you done this
When
yet?
is he gonna do that?
I'm working on it. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
Head over to our subreddit and join the community.
So what do you think, Florida? You may think of people shooting at hurricanes to make them stop, or that one guy who said he wasn't drinking and driving because he was only taking swigs from his bottle at stop signs.
Like Mario Kart rules.
Yeah.
That's nice.
You know, the state where alligators and meth heads roam in gangs together. That state.
GTA 6.
Yes. Yeah, get ready for that.
Honestly, I'm just glad that fucking game is coming out so that people stop telling me how much my city looks like fucking Grand Theft Auto every time I'm here.
Do you think GTA 6 will fix the world?
No, but it will make us forget about it for a while.
It's going to be Animal Crossing for a whole different type of person.
Yes.
Yeah.
For a whole different type of problem. Yeah.
Now, if you're in Miami, by the way, Miami is a lovely city, and if I was even remotely more fit, it's the place I would be.
All I ever think about is Dexter being like, I like to eat while I drive around in Miami.
Yeah. Miami's like an amazing city, but yeah, everyone there is like, not just like beautiful, but like, I don't need to wear clothes ever.
It's a sexy place.
Yes.
Miami.
But if you drive towards the Florida Keys, about 25 minutes later, you will arrive in the town of Homestead, Florida.
I thought you were about to give me directions to Kokomo.
You go down to the Keys, spend some time getting key lime pie.
That's when you're gonna get away from it all.
But in Homestead, you'll find an amazing, mysterious place called the Coral Castle.
And that's where the crowd erupts and cheers and clapping. Finally, you've been waiting for this. It's literally been like 5 or 6 years since you brought this up.
It's true. Or as it's become known, America's Stonehenge. 1,000 tons of rock crafted, moved, and placed by a single man. It's a mysterious structure, much like the real Stonehenge, which begs the question, how'd he do it? Why'd he do it? What's the deal there? And if the name rings a bell, it might be because you saw it on Ancient Aliens or heard it on Coast to Coast AM or any of the other many places it's been featured. If you know weird things, if you love weird things, it's always on that list.
I think you brought this up during the staircase one, which was another weird, like, building.
It's like another impossibility.
Yeah.
It's like that same thing. It's really just another, like, people go and it was just like, there was no internet. There was no comment section. So you just be like, how the fuck you do that? What the hell? Like when you go to, wow, water running uphill, like in the middle of Santa Cruz or wherever that is, the mystery spot. Same kind of thing, right?
It's also, there's another very weird thing that I one day wanted, it's probably a mini-sode thing, but there's a street, I think it's in Spain, maybe it's in Mexico, I can't remember, but it's like angled at a weird way that up is actually down.
Huh.
So the street looks like it's going up, but really you're going down and people can't walk on it. And so tourists like will fall, like people go to the street, but it seems to defy all logic.
Oh, I need to see that. That sounds cool.
And it's just straight up math.
I'd probably throw up. I'd probably vomit.
It's just the way things are built. It just looks crazy. And so their equilibrium gets thrown off. But, that's not this. This is traveling back to the early 1900s. So sit back, relax. You're in for a ride. This is a wild one.
Back before seatbelts and standards. A place we're headed again today.
Well, technically we start before cars because Edward Lee Skalnin was born January 12th, 1887 in Latvia, which at the time I think was under Russian control. And he was the son of
pre-Jack the Ripper, by the way.
Yes. He was the son of farmers, and his family, they did not have a lot of money. Ed himself only attended school for a couple of years before staying at home to help out. Although he couldn't really help that much because Ed was pretty sickly and weak as a child, and really for most of his life. He overcompensated for that lack of physical skill by reading and learning all that he could. I mean, like, even as an adult, Ed was 5 feet, 100 pounds. So he is a tiny, thin dude.
So he's just literally just small, physically small.
He's a tiny man.
Which again, hilarious thing to be like part of this mystery.
Exactly. It adds to it. Yeah.
Yeah. A strikingly small man.
But like, other than that, what I just told you, very little is actually known about this guy's childhood. That again, like Alex was just saying, continues to add to the mystery of all these things associated with him, right? It's a frail man who's like, no one knows anything about this guy, really. He just seems like he shouldn't be able to do anything that he did. What we do know for sure is that his father was a skilled stonemason and that Ed spent his days learning the craft from him. And he clearly did that in Latvia for some time, as the next information we have about him, again, complete mystery. The next information we have about him is at the age of 26, he got engaged to marry a woman named Agnes Skvust. Hope that's how you say that.
That can't be right.
No, that's gotta be
what did you say?
Skuvst.
Skvust.
Skvust. It's probably like
Scoofed.
Pearson.
Yeah. No. But she was 16 at the time.
Oh.
Getting old around that time, man. She's already an elderly matron.
I mean, you're still kind of in like weird cowboy.
It feels weird.
Oh, yeah.
It feels weird, but at the time, I guess it was the 1800s. Well, actually, this would have been the 1900s now. But either way, right before their marriage, like the day before, she breaks off the engagement and says, "I'll never marry you."
Sometimes why? We'll never know, probably because we probably don't know much about their history.
We have no idea why. All we know,
a 5 foot, like tiny, angry little asshole.
He appears not to be angry or any of that. But we'll get into why maybe she would have left him. But
how old was he?
26.
When she was 16?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so
it's weird. I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, at least he wasn't 40 like all the other ones are. Do you remember we talked about that other one? It was another Wild West story where the young girl had like a 40-year-old man that the mom wanted her to marry, and then like a 20-something-year-old that she liked a lot.
Like, I mean, yeah, at the time it was all about stability. It's about exactly. Like you're getting rid of your daughter who's a drain on your money and giving it to someone, like giving her to someone who can take care of her. And that's like the vibe of that time period.
Yeah.
It wasn't
Nowadays,
really
you have
what
to be
she
like
wanted,
a pretty popular, yeah, you just got to be a popular YouTuber today to do that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Whether it be because he was heartbroken or embarrassed or for some other reason, he left Latvia right after that and immigrated to the United States. He arrived April 7th, 1912 in New York, which is, again, just part of the records. There's very little information known about this guy. That's just part of the records that we have. He arrived in New York.
Titanic times, basically.
Yeah. And he began his American dream, looking for work. And then he just did not find any, which is, I thought, very funny.
Kept heading west.
Is that very American?
I mean, kept heading south, I guess.
Well, so what ended up happening is in August of the same year, he treks to the Pacific Northwest to work in the logging industry.
Very far away from Florida.
Yeah. We lose track of him there. We don't really know much, except the things we do know is that in 1917, he filled out his draft registration card because, World War I. And then we see on that card, he's listed as self-employed and he makes axe handles. That's all we got on him during this time period.
That feels so gratifying, can I just say? I bet you that dude felt so good because he'd just finish it and he'd be like, I have made money.
As a professional axe handle maker in Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, it's very satisfying when you finish that nice 10-minute mini game of building your weapon and hammering out the metal and putting that axe handle in there, and you feel proud of your work.
I bet, crafting in general. I bet
why
that
do you have
feels
to go
really
all the
good.
way to the PNW though?
Yeah. Good question. There's woods everywhere at this time.
That's like it's like, when people from, I guess now that we're like a burgeoning fascist dictatorship, it's different. But way back when people used to want to visit us, they used to say things like, oh, I'm going to go to New York City, then I'm going to go to Dallas, then I'm going to go to Los Angeles, then I'm going to go to, Salt Lake City or whatever. And it's like, I feel like back in the day, that could like be your doom. Like if you were like, I'm going to go on the Oregon Trail. Who cares?
Yeah,
it can happen.
Depending on fucking Kentucky Cannibals, the story of a man who fucking was traveling in this time and got lost.
Thankfully, this is early 1900s, so there's railroads. Like you're not trekking across on a caravan. Like you literally just hop on a train and go, but
still, it's fucking 3,000 miles, bro. That's crazy.
That's what he did because I guess at the time there was a big wood boom, a lumber boom. And that's when they were cutting down all the trees in Northern California and Oregon. And, that's why they had to be like the redwoods are a national treasure. It's all because of that. Because we got a little too carried away, but that's how we built kind of everything during this time period, especially in that World War I, World War II era, right before we got like the greatest generation. And so I guess that's what he was doing out there. The next time we hear about him is in the winter of 1922-23. Ed was found.
So like 10 years later.
Yeah. Again, we know very little.
Unless these people kept journals. Yeah, we're not going to learn much about him.
Exactly. And he wasn't like important, right? He was just a guy. And so there wasn't much reason for him to have journals or to have people.
Just a girl in a world. Yeah.
Yeah. And so Ed was found on the side of the road, sick and passed out.
He got the Edgar Allan Poe treatment.
Yeah. The man who found him took him to the doctor, and the doctor told Ed, my man, you have tuberculosis. And
shit.
At this point, you have 6 months to live.
All right,
brother.
Good luck.
Yeah. Ed.
So he had to make for warmer climes?
He apparently he seemed completely unfazed by the diagnosis. And he said that he believed the sun would cure him of his illness. And so he moved to the Sunshine State. He moved to Florida.
And it did?
Well, this is the weird thing. He moved to Florida City, which for my geography nerds out there, Florida City and Homestead are like right next to each other.
Florida City.
Yeah, and Florida City.
Of course, I bet you there's like 6 of those in Florida.
Well, this Florida City is if you look on the map, it's like the southernmost point before you hit the Everglades and then the Florida Keys. At this time, there was nothing below that. Like once you
Except
hit
for
Florida
Kokomo
City
from the Beach Boys song.
Yeah, it was not tourist trappy. It was not populated. It's none of that stuff. In fact, most of it was undeveloped land and swamp. And at the time, I'm pretty sure it was inhabited by the Seminole people, and they just booted them off in order to take this land. And
pretty
so
cool.
It was
pretty
just
chill behavior.
What now?
Pretty chill behavior by those guys.
Very, very
well, I mean, most of the time it was Northerners looking to get affordable land post World War I. This was everyone coming back. It was, society was like, we got to rebuild. The war's over. And so, this was one of the areas people were moving to. And Ed said, I'm going to go there. And, in his mind, I guess, cause it's a growing market for cheap home buyers. I don't know, but he went there cause it's going to cure him. And as the story goes, a man named R.L. Moser was scouting back roads for land because he was like a real estate.
A man called R.L. Stein was scouting for stories.
I guess like a real estate spectator is the best. Like he would go around and look for land to buy. Like that was his thing.
Agents are everywhere, bro.
What a fucking time.
No.
They're just like, look at all this shit. Let's own it.
It's like, hang on. But there's like a village of people over there.
No. Ignore them.
Boot them.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Well, all right.
And so I guess the story here goes that he said that when he was driving down the road, because he was like on the back roads in the Everglades trying to find property to buy up so that he could then, resell or whatever, build on. And he sees what he thinks is a child walking down the road alone. And he's like, what? So he drives up and I'm sure you figured it out.
A child?
Yeah. I'm sure you figured out that when he gets close, he realizes it is in fact a small, thin man. And Moser, who is very friendly and a very chill guy, I guess in the early 1900s, you could be that way out in the middle of the Everglades. I don't know. But, he said, hey, man, do you need a ride somewhere? And Ed was like, yeah, of course. Introduced himself. They got in the car and he asked him, he's like, what are you doing here? And Ed said that he's in Florida looking for a very specific plot of land. And Moser was like, what are you looking for? And Ed said, I'll know it when I find it.
Hey, sometimes you just got to have that, follow the gut instinct.
Yeah.
He just was like, I'm going to be mysterious. He what's the movie with the little girl? that it's like this family adopts her and thinks that it's like a girl, like a little girl, and then it turns out she's like a 45-year-old woman who's like small.
Oh, isn't that that's a doc? That's based on that actually is a real thing that happened.
That's like, I feel like this is like the same thing in her brain that made her do that. He was like, I'm just going to play it coy. I'm just going to say, you know what? I don't know. We're going to see.
Curious case of Natalia Grace.
I guess I'm just saying, like, it just feels like he like survival mode was like, I don't know. We'll see. Something's coming. Something big.
And he also made it even weirder because people would see him walking around through undeveloped land lots and various like plots of land that were slowly under construction, and he would straight up like start tapping the ground, look at structures. He would like kneel down and study the earth, like he was looking for something. And eventually this becomes local legend. He's riding around on his rusty ass bike, poking the ground, looking for anything. And
something's coming, something good.
And Moser would be like, hey man, let me show you some property if you're buying. And every time he was shown amazing farmland or like good property in good areas, he would always reject it with like a smile. Like, no, not for me. Thank you though. Like that kind of vibe.
Oh, mischievous 5 foot nothing
Thank
dude.
you so much for asking. I'll know it when I see it.
Yeah.
Waddling up.
So of course, because this is a very small community, people
like
began to spread rumors. Maybe he's looking for buried treasure. Maybe he's testing ley lines or some sort of earthly magic. Maybe he's looking for the cure for his illness.
Genius marketing.
But there is like truth there in that. At this time, folk magic wasn't as popular as it was in the late 1800s, but it was still lingering around. It was still there.
I mean,
it's still here today.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it never truly.
One of the ley lines that if you like look at a ley line map, it literally goes through this area of Florida. So like, there's a lot of who knows, but the mystery is there, right? Speaking of his illness, I think this is fascinating. You might be wondering why a man who's told he has 6 months left to live would want to move to Florida, build a home. He's unmarried, no children. What is the purpose of this?
I'm thinking he's fine. I'm thinking he has no disease.
Or like, misdiagnosed.
Ed very much believed he was fine. And according to legend, the doctor who diagnosed him visited him 1 year later, saw that Ed was still very alive, and asked Ed, how did you do this? You should be dead. And Ed replied, the power of magnetricity.
Dude, this guy's doing what I'm doing on the Chilluminati podcast, but on another level beyond that. He is running things.
Maybe this man, I'm going to do everybody loves that I do. Aliens, bro. Maybe aliens.
I mean, bro. That is not
aliens, bro.
You know, that is a theory people have thought of. To me, the word magnetricity sounded like complete nonsense. I was like, what the hell is that?
Magnetricity.
That's ICP shit right
that's
there.
Like that's like the 10th school of magic for a wizard in D&D.
Yeah, it's like a dude.
Magnetricity.
It's like a dude smashed magnet and electricity together and just made up a word. Here's the thing, though. I Googled it because I was like, I'd love to know what the definition of this would be.
A magic pill that cures you of tuberculosis?
Apparently. Well, it's actually more than that in a way that I was not expecting, and it took me down a rabbit hole that blew my mind. And this is
what happened? The magnetricity rabbit hole?
Oh.
That's fucking
I never feel closer to you than when this happens to you as well.
I spent 4 hours in here in this rabbit hole, and this is not even the topic, but I just wanted to report back the insanity here. So
magnetricity,
he made up he said magnetricity. In my mind, I'm like, he made that up. That means nothing. I'm not going to find anything about it.
Right.
But in 2009, physicists working, and apparently this is a thing that's been going on for a while, but we have confirmation stuff that Tom Fennell of the Langevin Institute in France and Stephen Bramwell of the London Centre for Nanotechnology in the UK basically confirmed it to be a thing.
Is it not just electromagnetism?
it's magnetricity. It's different, apparently. So, I know that people have questions, and I'm just going to really quickly give you the first thing that I saw. And Alex, I don't expect you to understand what I'm about to send you.
Okay.
But I want you to know this is what I saw, and this is what drove me to be like, I need answers.
Okay.
This little bit right here.
Magnets normally have two poles, north and south, that are inseparable. Cutting a magnet in half only results in each piece developing its own north and south pole. That is true even if one disassembles a magnet all the way down to its individual atoms, since each behaves as a tiny bar magnet with two poles. But physicists have theorized that magnetic monopoles, individual north and south poles that are not bound in pairs and can move independently of one another, could form inside a crystalline material called spin ice, which I believe is a move from Pokemon Scarlet. The individual atoms would still have both north and south poles, but patterns in their orientation would propagate through the material and look just like little magnetic poles roaming around. These patterns would effectively be monopoles as far as any measurements are concerned.
Okay, so, and we'll get into that and explain exactly what the hell that means.
Magnets that only have one side.
Right, and the interesting thing here is, this, according to the article I was reading, is the process in which we can lead to magnetricity. Which means, in theory, if Ed wasn't BSing, this man was operating on a level that in 2009 we finally cracked.
And he used
it was a joke at first, but if this man had an encounter with NHI and they just simply introduced him to the idea of magnetic, like, because that's in theory is how the UFOs move, is via magnetism and stuff. And in the minisode today, we're going to talk about how scientists have turned light into a super solid as of like 3 days ago. But like, maybe he did. Maybe a little gray guy came down.
And it's going to be available in the PS5 Pro.
They probably thought he was a little gray alien because he's short, just like them. Probably has a big head, like I did.
He got dobbied. He got dobbied like that kid in the.
Yeah, and they tapped him on the shoulder. They whipped around. They surprised, like, oh, this isn't Glipple It's fucking Steve or whatever. Fucking.
Oh my god, we gotta find Glipple. He's got to get married in 3 days.
Let me teach you about magnetricity first, though.
So, in the article about magnetricity, this is the image they sent us. I'm going to give it to you guys. Mathis, if you could describe it to people. There's some text there too if you want to read that and explain to people what this is. This is literally them explaining how you make a monopole.
Basically, what you're looking at is like a giant grid where that's made up of bars that have a red side and a blue side representing the two different sides of the poles, and they're all facing each other in ways where
that
it looks like
is a Pokemon from
would
Pokemon
be facing
Scarlet.
each other, except for a wandering pole.
Yummy Vaporeon.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yummy
It's got a little
Espeon.
bit of that going for it. Then at the very top, Holmium.
This is what magnetricity is about.
Holmiumion. Oh, you can say that in so many different ways, and it can be cute, kind of nasty. I don't know what this is, dude. That's the best I could do. What the fuck?
No, I got you. I will explain it. That's exactly why I deep dived this.
Single freely moving magnetic poles to exist in one type of magnetic solid that have been found. Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. All right. So, based on what you guys just went through, this was my beginning rabbit hole experience. And for this episode, I wanted to deep dive exactly what the hell they were talking about, so it made more sense to me. And so I watched a lot of videos that were made clearly for dum-dums like me. I want to give full credit to Quantum Age YouTube channel for their quantum spin, ice, and magnetic monopoles video, and the Royal Institution hour-long video with Felix Flicker, who does the physics of magnetic monopoles. He also, he is a phenomenal speaker. I just want to, thank God for him. It made it so much simpler. So, to reiterate what Alex said, if you take a magnet and cut that baby in half, no matter how many times you cut it, all the way down to its atomic level, it still just becomes another magnet. A magnet split in two becomes two magnets, then four,
and you're saying the answer
et cetera.
is magnetricity.
Yeah. Magnets are dipoles. They have two poles. A north-south, a positive, negative. It's just the way it is. The question that science has is why? We still don't know that.
Magnets. How do
they work? Well, if you zoom in to the thousandth of a millimeter, you'll see that each magnet is made of little magnetic domains, kind of like, little fiefdoms inside the like microscopic level of magnets, each with its own north and south pole and magnetic
fiefdoms.
Yeah, that's the way I can describe it.
The magnetic baron.
Yeah, like little tiny, like magnetic, like if you go down to the smallest level, you can still, it doesn't matter. Still, there are micromagnets in magnets. It's wild.
Magnets and magnets, man.
And so, if you want to cut even those, they will still have the properties of a magnet. And so, with each having a north and each having a south, it doesn't matter what you do, a magnet's still going to magnet. Well, what happens when you're on this microscopic level is you can cut one of these little domains in half, like I was saying, and deep in there are single atoms. And these single atoms have spin. You're either spinning, imagine like clockwise or counterclockwise. So like, let's say clockwise for positive north and counterclockwise for negative south. Like whatever the case may be, right? Like that's the vibe. You can pinpoint them and they call that spin, right? So that's the first part of spin ice. In the 1800s, Michael Faraday, who everyone should recognize that last name.
From his cage.
Yeah.
Right. And from Lost.
Sure. Yeah. Renowned scientist who worked with electromagnetism, electrochemistry, induction, electrolysis, and so much more. He left all these journals and all these notes how if you take a coil of wire and move a magnet through it, it induces an electrical current. This is known as the Faraday coil, and this leads to the greater understanding of electricity and how magnets are connected. Like, electrons are in atoms, electrons move to create electric charges. That's just how it all works.
Basically, like the entire like textbook on electricity was rewritten in the early 2000s. 2009.
That's the thing is, I'm going to show you this. So here's part of a video where we get a demonstration of how magnetricity in a Faraday,
fucking magnetricity, dude.
I love the name so much.
So if you watch, it's 7 minutes. The timestamp actually is 7:46 and you can see the demonstration. And he literally just drops a magnet through and the lights light up.
Okay. Why is he dressed exactly like the 11th Doctor?
The premise, but what's great about this, so again, this is Felix Flicker, the video I just showed you guys.
Oh yeah, okay.
The whole video, the whole lecture he's giving is presented on the gimmick of him being an explorer traveling to the North Pole for the first time, and everything about it is set in like if he was giving us a presentation at the Institute in the early or late 1800s. Like that's the gimmick he's doing. So that's why he's dressed like that.
God bless him for doing that type of shit.
Yeah, he's holding just like a tube of bundled copper wires, it looks like. Mm-hmm. And then he drops a small, like a bar of magnets through the tube, and you just see he has like 5 or 6 Christmas lights attached to it, and they light up as the magnet falls through.
It shows it like a light chain on like a marquee, like it like goes down. Yeah.
Yep. And he says something that I think I never really thought of, and it's not really related to magnetricity, but I never thought of it like this ever, where he was saying that electricity, the way we have it in our lives, the way to think of it isn't like some magic power that we flip a switch and things just work. He's like, electricity is a current. It flows, and it flows to our homes and our sockets. All the things we use to power our stuff are like beer taps. We tap into it, and that power flows into whatever we're using. And I was like, I never thought of electricity that way before, where we're tapping into the flow of something. and that's powering our stuff.
I don't remember when I was told it, but it's like switches are like dams, almost like you just like, close the dam, open the dam.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah. And, really quickly, electricity, right? It is in fact a negative, like an electron by itself is in fact a monopole. It's a negatively charged monopole. Just like a proton is a positively charged monopole. But they just like...
Is it? Is it really?
They just counteract each other.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Yeah, they like, we can't use them because they neutralize each other.
They just act as. Okay.
So if magnetism and electricity are connected, that actually seems like the place to start exploring monopoles. Because if they exist at that level, then clearly they must exist in other ways, right? If they can microscopically exist, then surely. And that's where we get the start of spin ice, which is, like the name says, ice-based. So, like, take a glass of ice, right? The way that the Quantum Age video explained it, which is super technical, but basically, you take an ice cube, it has hydrogens and oxygens, 2 hydrogen for each oxygen, and essentially, it is because it's ice, it's frozen, is a low form of energy, right? Like, if you heat up something, it gets, like, the energy goes, it gets crazy. But ice is very low. And so, in this crystallized form, oxygens, according to the video, are sitting at the corners of kind of like crystallized tetrahedra, pyramid structures at this atomic level. And one of the oxygens sits right in the middle of it, and the others sit on the points at the end. And then the hydrogen sits in between those. And for some reason, moves towards one of the oxygen. And it just picks them. But usually it's 2 hydrogen move towards the 1 oxygen. And this forms a rule that I guess is a thing that physicists are into called 2 in, 2 out. It's the ice rule. And that is why they call it spin ice, because they're doing the 2 in, 2 out thing with, magnetism and magnets. So basically, the way it works is 2 in, 2 out negates. Like, that's the vibe. It's the lowest form of energy, 2 in, 2 out. So
in a solid way?
In any way. Vacuum of space. Like the darkness of space is 2 in, 2 out. Right? Magnets operate on kind of the same principle, right? Like the idea that they negate each other. Because you have a positive, negative side on. So this is the starting point of what they're doing. They're like, okay, so we are starting from the lowest energy point imaginable, and we're going to focus that into magnets. So each ion, right, has a spin. It's the magnetic field. And these spins face north or south, right? North pole, south pole. And it's just like the 2 in, 2 out rule, where 2 spins face in and 2 face out. So really quickly, go back to that grid that I showed that Mathis had.
Yeah.
And you can see the very last image. Blue is the negative, red is the positive, or blue is the south pole, red is the north pole. And you can see that on a normal pattern of them, 2 blue, 2 red face in. Yeah?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what they did in order to get a monopole to work is they simply turned one of them. So now it's 3 in, 3 blue in and 1 red in, for example. But then that makes the one next to it have 3 red in and 1 blue in. So now you have these monopoles that are, because you don't have to be completely positive or negative, because if you're just overly positive, you become positive. Like, that's the vibe. Or if you're overly negative, you're just a negatively charged thing now. And so what they would do is they'd slowly move and in order to do this, they literally created they created a whole ass new, I don't want to say element, but like crystallized structure. And they could do it in a lab. This does not take place in the wild yet, as far as we know. But basically, you slowly move these, you flip these, positive negatives.
The ions.
Yeah, so that you can then, in the image we have here, slowly move them away from each other.
So it literally just like you do it. It's like those kind of like video game puzzles with the same kind of deal.
Yeah.
Like from like Resident Evil or some shit where you like turn it and it like flips the ones next to it or whatever.
And
like
the objective is you can leave one standing where it is, but if you keep flipping the other, it'll get further and further and further and further. And by the time you stretch it out really far, you now see the signs of, oh my God, we created a monopole.
You've like oriented them to behave as if they were a monopole.
Right. But in the wild, we have no evidence they exist yet, but we can make them in a laboratory setting. And
that is crazy.
Yeah. And this is the deep dive I went on. So if anyone out there is like,
this seems cured himself of tuberculosis?
Exactly. So we're like, we are using the electric currents of electricity all the time in our lives. But magnetism, it has no real current. So north and south cancel each other out. But with spin ices, you then can create that current, that magnetricity. And that's what I learned from this. I was like, oh my God. So this man, unless he just made it up, was unlocking the power of magnetic current, a thing that we cannot do.
This is literally like, it's funny. It's UFO shit. It's UFO shit. That's how they theorize these things move in a way where they're able to control the magnetic field around their craft, triangular shaped crafts in particular, and like be able to adjust. And so they can move because you're basically frictionless in that way. Mm-hmm. And so you can move instantaneously, like without having to worry about air, without having to worry about water. It's all magnetic based. And if you could truly control that on a large scale, you can go at any distance and it won't feel like anything.
And that's what's so weird. Again, this just adds to the mystery of this man, where when I first read it, I was like, magnetricity sounds like bullshit. But really, truly, scientists right now are trying to come up with ways based on this, study they were doing.
Tips a little?
They're trying to come up with ways to move away from electronics and move towards things called spintronics, which sounds like a spin class, which is hilarious. But spintronics based off magnetic spin. So it's electronics, except it doesn't use electricity.
Yeah.
Which would, again, change the world drastically.
But here's the thing, like, if you were talking about the stuff that Tesla was saying and doing at around the same time, it would sound exactly as crazy as this.
Sure.
And he was just doing it.
Yeah, and that's why this guy is like no one knows a damn thing about this man. Except that he read a lot, and he could have read
Eastern European guy who came over here and
started messing around with
crazy
things.
Yeah, just started making crazy physics, psychedelic shit.
Did this deep dive bring you into grasping distance of Dr. Ning Li at all?
No.
That was a scientist who
she's the Chinese lady.
Yeah, who was working within magnetism. And she like had a quote says, the device did not modify gravity. Rather, it produced a gravity-like field that may be either attractive or repulsive. It's a gravity-like force you can put in any direction. It could be used in space, blah, blah. And she disappeared. There's a few scientists in that. It's weird because she's not the only one. There's a few scientists in that field who have like supposedly made breakthroughs and then vanished. Never seen again. Like just gone. It's interesting.
And this was in the 1900s.
Our fossil fuel economy. Like,
it would destroy
all that shit.
Yeah, I mean, electricity.
And that's a booming era, early 1900s. That shit is exploding as like the new main way to travel is fossil fuels. This would immediately put a halt on all of that shit.
Yeah, he fully believed, or at least told people, magnets cured him. And it's crazy because the way he said it is, we're only just now beginning to understand and comprehend.
But that does not mean go get a $200 magnetic wristband that will cure all your ailments. That's not how it works.
Yes. Magnets as healing devices have been tried and tested and studied. And for the most part, it's just new age bunk. Like there's no real information that says it works in any meaningful way. But if Ed somehow used monopole spin ice to heal himself with magnetricity, that is something else entirely. And not just magnets.
Just to reiterate to the audience, this isn't a Mathis episode. These words are real. These are real science.
Yeah, the mystery of Ed continues to grow. And so, on February 27th, 1923, while in Florida, the Homestead Enterprise newspaper published a notice that E. Leedskalnin, a Californian, has purchased an acre of the R.L. Moser homestead and is planning to erect a home soon. As the story goes, Moser brought Ed, I was about to say Ed brought Moser, but Moser brought Ed to a plot of land, and Ed wanted it. He was like, this is the plot of land. And I guess Moser was like, dude.
Just like, I found it.
And Moser was like, this has to be one of the worst plots of land I have ever seen. There is no, like, building a home here would be so stupid. The bedrock goes all the way to the surface. It's unplowable, unfarmable. You cannot live off the land here. Sure, dude, if you want it. And I guess
that alone right there, though, bedrock reaching the surface, I bet you has a huge amount to do with it.
Oh, absolutely. 100%. That is why he chose this. And I guess Moser gave him the land, but I think legally had to sell it to him on the cheap. But he basically was like, here, yeah, take it. And so, after deciding to settle down, and for reasons no one but the man himself understands, Ed begins construction of his life's work. At first, it's your standard home, wooden walls, kind of, just building a shack for him to live in, almost Minecraft-esque, where he builds a little tiny thing first, and then his next step is he's going to start...
He needs to go make stone.
Yeah, pretty much. It's just so crazy to me. So he starts to dig up giant stone slabs to put around his home that he named Ed's Place, and he starts the process of building a castle made of these giant stones.
Now, when you say castle, I'm imagining, the castle from Game of Thrones.
See,
like,
this is called Coral Castle. My mind goes to Ariel's castle in Little Mermaid.
Oh, okay. So the castle from the Little Mermaid. Where are we at in terms of castle?
Well, get ready for this. So,
it's a cube.
Again, for reasons no one understands. I think I have. Well, I'll let you guys figure this out.
Okay.
For reasons no one understands, Ed set about quarrying more than 3 million pounds of oolite limestone from the local area. Limestone? And he started.
Go ahead. Continue.
He started sculpting 25-foot tall, 30-ton blocks into a variety of shapes. Walls, tables, chairs, water fountain, a sundial, so much more. The average weight of these creations was 15 tons.
That's insanity.
And he was just alone doing this?
Oh, we'll get to it. So if you're curious, I put this in here just because I want to make very clear. Oolite is often called coral stone because it contains tiny fossil shells and coral fossils from like 60 million years ago, because Florida at the time was underwater. So all the dead things had to go somewhere and they went into this. That's just why it's called coral stone and why it's called the Coral Castle. But really it's limestone.
Salt pits too?
What now?
What was the thing? Second thing it was over? You said it was built on, was it salt? Fucking limestone. Limestone is what you said.
Limestone. Yeah, it's limestone. It's all, he's digging up limestone. He's making giant limestone blocks. And to give you some clarity of the size and scale of what he was doing, like Alex was saying, he did all of this by himself.
That's crazy. I mean, not impossible, but like crazy.
Genuinely?
Yeah. And it gets even crazier than that. Some of the stones he was working with were taller than the stones at Stonehenge and heavier than the blocks of the Great Pyramid.
Just remember, crop circles were often over limestone pits.
To make things stranger, he refused to allow anyone to see him work. And when asked what he was doing and how he was doing it all alone, he'd simply respond, "I understand the laws of weights and leverage, and I know the secrets of the people who built the pyramids."
Okay.
That's what he would say.
I mean, hey.
Dude.
Okay.
I got thoughts. Continue. I can't
Sure.
say them.
What people did see when they did see him working seems to even add more mystery because, there is gossip and who really knows. But one story says that teenagers witnessed him working in secret and they saw him moving a block, like a giant block of stone, like it was a balloon, like a hydrogen balloon, like just lifting it.
Like pushing it?
No, like whoop, off the ground and just moving it.
No.
That's according to a bunch of teenagers. That's what they said. In one story, Ed managed to create a perpetual motion holder, a device that Ed later goes on to write about, and we'll talk about that. And he does experiments with it, but he uses magnets and magnetism and a magnetic current to create a self-perpetuating electromagnetic field that, much like Mathis was talking about, produces zero friction and lifts it up off the ground. That's another one of the many things people said they think they saw.
Oh, Jesse, we're sharing the same kiddie pool right now.
Yeah, it's crazy. I'm not used to being here.
Is it though? It's warm.
I even tried to look up how any of that would possibly work. I cannot figure it out to save my life. I definitely deep dived it, and it was like a lot of gibberish to me.
Yeah, a lot of math.
Yeah. In fact, everything I saw, it seems to almost go against the laws of thermodynamics to do this.
Yeah.
So again, either it is all bunk and just people making up stuff, or Ed is in 3008 and we're in 2000 late. Like, we just don't understand how this works.
And this is the point where if the roles were reversed, Jesse would just say, it was all just rumor. They were bored. It's all a lie. But there's also scientific evidence that magnetricity is fucking real.
Yeah, if I hadn't read that, and that's why I included it, I would be like, bullshit, this isn't real. But like, it's a thing apparently. And so here we are. What Ed does tell us, and he leaves us in the notes and stuff about Coral Castle itself, is that he was using a tripod system with winches and pulleys and all of that. And if you look at all the parts of the system he was using, it actually kind of makes a lot of sense. It's the same tech you would imagine they used to lift giant pieces of lumber in the Pacific Northwest. And he spent years there probably learning how to do that. And, you know, it's kind of how they lifted.
I think it could have been, this is a conspiracy thought, but in a fun conspiracy way.
Okay.
Not alien related specifically at all. But do you think the ancient Egyptians maybe had figured out some sort of magnetic shit that just, maybe they didn't know it was magnets, and then that's like kind of like lost to time because we don't really have a full, real great understanding of like a lot of their shit?
I mean,
I don't know.
One of the things that we know for sure, because there's some examples of it in, like, if you go visit the Coral Castle right now, there's like leftover remnants of when he was operating there. And we do know that he was doing some of the things that they did in Egypt. Like, you know, where you put the stone on the wood and you move it and then the logs roll. Like, he was doing stuff like that at the time for sure.
Wait, that makes sense because like that's just not science.
But again, this is what is baffling about it. They had slaves and serfs, and also like anytime you see a big structure throughout the world, be it, you know, in South America or Egypt or like in the middle of the jungles in Cambodia, whatever, like there was always just, they threw people at a thing until it was built.
Yep.
This is 1 5 foot tall, 100-pound man. It doesn't make a lot of sense. And I think it adds to the mystery of what was going on here. When people would come around and visit him, he would immediately stop doing what he was doing. He would never tell them how he did anything. And he would also be extremely vague in what he was doing. People would ask him and he'd just answer with riddles and mysteries. And he would just like, yeah, you know, I'm just doing what I do. And I assume this is why the next thing that is really important to this legend is, I assume this is what brought this on. Maybe because he didn't want people to bug him. Maybe for some other reason. He began to only work at night.
Another like insane thing.
So now he's
especially then.
Yeah, I mean, in the middle of the Everglades at night, that's crazy.
You can't see shit.
I guess maybe because there's no light, you get the moon and stars.
Torches,
so there's kind of like,
torches.
you know, there's no light pollution. So I guess maybe you get some. But like, again, middle of the night, that's crazy. And again, it's just one guy by himself.
Maybe the pole
doing all this.
Hmm?
The interesting thing is, and I will send you this photo. You can describe what you see.
It is a giant tripod. Like
it's like a
2-story
looks
tall.
like Daniel Plainview's like oil derricks. Like it's like an old
it does have that vibe. Yeah.
Wooden thing. Yeah. Like a fire climbing thing.
This apparently is the only ever photo taken of Ed with his tripod contraption that he was using
that's Ed. Okay.
to lift them out of the ground. And I guess the big mystery of the tripod, because people are trying to figure it out, is everyone was asking what the hell is on top of it. There's a box.
Yeah, it looks like it literally looks like a cardboard box is on top of it with like a dark lid.
It's like a black box, like a weird looking black box. And another sneaky photo was taken of it. It's this one right here from a different angle. And it appears to be kind of like, it appears to be kind of taken outside the castle, but it is another photo of it.
Antigravitypower.tripod.com.
Yep.
Love that.
And that's what people think, that they think the black box in the top is where he kept the anti-gravity magnetricity stuff. There's no evidence of that, but that's what people believe because, again, he was lifting these giant stone slabs with just this.
Can I say the second photo is fantastic? Because it's like what do you call it? One of those towers in a castle would have, but it literally looks like a Minecraft building.
Because he was, again,
it's crazy.
Building it by, I'm telling you, it's Minecraft. This man was real life Minecrafting.
It's not seamless, but it's really well cut. Like these stones are very well like measured and cut. It's very impressive.
People began to speculate like the real power behind Ed was in that box. Because somehow he was able to chisel, like you were saying, craft, lift, and place these stones with an accuracy and skill that is, again, phenomenal, but it may also just be because his dad was a stonemason. And he knows how to do this. So, and that adds to the mystery.
But it's still, even if he didn't know how, if he didn't know how to do it, he's still moving enormously heavy things.
Are the stonemasons of today like... The Coral Castle isn't that big.
Oh, we'll get to it. This is what's so fascinating about it is the mystery never ends. So notoriety's building up around this place. It's, Florida City isn't huge and people are starting to take notice of the fact that a castle is being built in Florida City. Rumor spreads that Ed had powers and a secret fortune. That's why he was building a castle, to protect his secret fortune. And
of course, that has to pop into this now.
And so, one night, a bunch of dudes show up and rough up Ed looking for the fortune. Keep in mind, we're talking way southern Florida in the 1920s and 30s. So, to Ed, this was the sign that he needs to move. And so, you're probably thinking, okay, so he's just going to leave the castle behind? No.
Take it with him.
Ed decides to move all the stone, one stone at a time, to Florida City's neighbor, Homestead, in the 1930s. And this, of course, adds even more to the mystery. So again, this is 1930s Florida. There aren't heavy freight operators, right? There's dudes with trucks. And he hires one, and according to legend, he tells the driver when the driver arrives, you don't need to load the trucks. I got this. You can go rest. You can go around the corner and rest. And the guy did. And Ed loaded the trucks by himself, piece by piece. And they drove them 10 miles to Homestead. Nobody knows how he loaded those trucks by himself.
I just had this image like he was kind of like Magneto, lift his entire castle and just float down to this new
He is Magneto.
If you go watch, seems like he might be.
Magnetricity charge.
We'll get to it. But if you watch the, I think it's In Search Of, it's the Leonard Nimoy show from the early 80s.
Yeah, In Search Of. Yeah.
And they have an episode on it, and they literally do reenactments. And in that episode, they do a reenactment of him loading it, and they absolutely give the hint that he just lifts it with his mind. Like, that's what they're showing. It's crazy. What's great about it, too, is it is supposed to take place, the video clip is supposed to take place in the 1930s, but it's clearly dudes in the 1980s dressed like they're in the 1980s doing 1980s stuff. It's really funny. But apparently, legend is, this man did it by himself with his powers? ? But he straight up.
Okay.
What we do know is he moved every single block. These massive multi-ton blocks to Homestead and then place them again in his new location. Apparently, this is also what's weird. He found a place in Homestead with the exact same types of rocks he was using to build in Florida City. And so he built there, and he now had quarries he could mine from literally next to his property.
Dude is living the real Minecraft life. You were not kidding.
Yeah, and in fact, one of the quarries to this day, I believe, is a pool now. So you can just jump in there and do your thing. Anyway, for the next 20 years, Ed would continue to spend his nights building and crafting the Coral Castle, which now he called Rock Gate, named after the technical marvel he crafted, which, again, we've talked about chairs and walls and whatever. He built a free-swinging 9-ton or nearly 2,000-pound stone gate that you could literally open and close just by pushing it barely with one hand.
That's crazy.
It's perfectly balanced.
As all things should be.
Yeah. And the gate alone was enough of a draw to get people to come see the site. Sadly, in the 1980s, someone or something broke it and pulled it off the pin set. But to add to the mystery of the Coral Castle, as engineers are brought in to fix it, they couldn't. So they brought in heavy equipment operators, and they tried to reset it with modern 1980s tech, and they could not figure out how Ed did it.
I love it. I love that.
And I believe today, if you were to go to Coral Castle, the gate is like gated off. You can't touch it anymore. But luckily for y'all, thanks to the Wayback Machine, that episode of Leonard Nimoy's In Search Of about Coral Castle has a demonstration from 1981. And I'm just going to send this to you. It is exactly 8 minutes and 39 seconds inside. Please describe what you see.
God, I love, dude, archive.org is such an invaluable piece of this show. Like I have this thing. I use it all the time.
It's valuable in a lot of different ways.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
In a lot of different ways.
839.
839.
This is actually crazy. I did not know that it was capable of doing this.
Hello. And Mrs. Wilson standing in front of the gate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There she is.
It's like one hand and no effort. You just watch the push and the camera pulls back and it shows this enormous just stone slab door that is hinged in the center. So it spins open and gives two entrances.
Yep. And that's how you would get on the property.
That's crazy, man.
And there's a big rolling stone too, like Indiana Jones or something.
There are many fascinating stones here. This is like he was creating things that, again, one guy.
I want to watch that. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's nuts.
And I would wager, my guess is based on the episode, because again, this episode came out in 81, and then in the early 80s, it broke. So I would guess people came there for that and messed with it, is what my assumption would be. But not only did he have the swinging gate, but he also carved giant thrones and rocking chairs balanced on stone pedestals. He created a multi-level tower in which he lived. He created astronomically aligned sight stones, pillars topped with moons and planets. He created an accurate sundial, a polar telescope, a barbecue, a heart-shaped table, a table shaped like Florida, and more. There even is an underground cavern that he carved through solid rock for fresh water pools and natural food storage.
That's crazy. This is insane.
Natural food storage?
Yeah, he put the food deep underground. Yeah.
Just like a cellar.
Yeah, but he just did it through the rock. And all of this, again, reminder, created, crafted, faceted, no mortar. Everything was held together by the weight of the rocks.
It's a remarkable feat of engineering. It's phenomenal.
And that's why even if everything he says or did and the mystery behind him is just nonsense,
the reality is so fucking crazy. Yeah.
That like there's a thing, you can go look at it. He continued to work after dark, but now in a much more crowded place. So people would, show up and they'd want to see it. And he would offer them free admittance, but if they wanted to, they could pay a 25-cent donation fee to get in. But remember, this is his home. This is the property he lived on. So he was like, if you can't follow my rules for being here, you don't deserve to be here. And the first rule was literally he had a sign that said, ring the bell twice. If you did not ring the bell twice, he would be like, get off my property.
I love it.
What the fuck?
Very ritualistic.
Yeah. Which is interesting.
Yeah.
So bizarre.
How do you like the temperature of the pool, Jesse?
I don't know. What is the temperature of the pool?
The one we're sharing right now.
Oh, chilly, dude.
Ew.
Chilly. Suddenly warm for some reason. What's that about?
Mathis and Jesse soup we're making, my friend.
But those who showed him respect, he would give tours to. He'd answer their questions. He'd be a good host. When asked by one person why he built it, in fact, every time he was asked why he built it, he would say, someday my sweet 16 will be coming. And then he'd look up at the stars. In fact, this was a common thread with every show or every interview. Anything about him, he would always say, I'm waiting for my sweet 16. Sadly, in November of 1951.
His sweet 16.
Yeah.
Like his 16-year-old love?
Maybe.
I hope not that.
Maybe. I don't know.
Good Lord.
In November 1951, Ed puts a sign on the front gate that says, going to the hospital, I feel ill. 28 days later, he would die of kidney failure at the age of 64.
Kidney failure. What brings on kidney failure?
For him, he had like
genetic,
abscesses and like his kidneys were shot.
Gotcha.
I don't know what the hell he was doing, but his kidneys were like gone.
Could have just been drinking his ass off.
Is that what? Is that? Yeah, it's probably.
I mean, I genuinely don't know.
That's not the only thing, but it could be that.
Ed had no will, and the property was given to his closest living relative in the U.S., a man named Harry from Michigan. Eventually was sold to other parties, and it changed its name from Rockgate to Rockgate Park to eventually Coral Castle. In 1984, it was listed on the National Registry of Historic Places. And of course, that kind of seems to be the end of the story. Ed's life remains a mystery. The Coral Castle is his legacy. Over the years, though, I'm sure you've heard that, based on this and anything you've heard in the wild, people really believe Ed had some sort of power or unlocked the ancient mysteries of lost peoples. Maybe even his sweet 16 that he keep talking about wasn't his fiance that had left him, but maybe something otherworldly, right? He kept like focusing on space, and people are like, well, maybe he meant something completely different.
You think he fell in love with an alien who was his 16-year-old girlfriend, and then she told him that she was an alien and that she could never be with him, and so she left him with a magical gravity gun that helped him move rocks around?
I would love to believe that, but I don't think that's the truth. No.
Half-Life Alex?
Half-Life Alex?
Plot?
In the In Search of
Except it's
episode,
just spelled like my way. Yeah.
in the In Search of episode, they literally postulate towards the end of the video that potentially, and this is what's crazy because it's just Leonard Nimoy saying it, which is really weird, but it's basically he says that the coral itself may hold some sort of magic power transferred to the stone long after they're dead. So I don't know what that means.
They're dead?
The coral itself, the living coral.
Like the organism?
Yes. Had some power.
Okay.
Look, that's just what Leonard Nimoy said in a video.
He's just making an Elden Ring boss over there.
Yes.
Bro,
the Coral Castle.
Can I just say, you have me looking shit up. Like one of his books, the intro to one of his books is, reader, if for any reason you do not like the things I say in this little book, I left just as much space as I used. So you can write your own opinion opposite and see if you can do better.
I would, you know what? I'm glad you found that. It's a little section I was going to have you read later, and you read it anyway.
Oh, so man, dude, I just like, you're talking about this guy as like it's like, so it fits. I love this guy.
Yeah.
I love this. He's a little dick.
Again, it could be ley lines because Ed apparently, according to legend, built his castle on top of it. So maybe that helped with his powers, assuming that he had powers, right? The fact that the Coral Castle was built in a place for, as according to legend, perfect harmonic resonance and magnetic anti-gravity. It's really one of those things that, it is fascinating to the point where modern day, in both the 80s, 90s, and today, people have tried to excavate and do the same thing that Ed did, and they simply cannot do it the same way. In a video I was watching, they literally bring in a construction crew, to dig up the stone, and they can't do it with the same accuracy. Like they have to chisel away at it, and it isn't as fine as the way Ed did.
What the fuck?
Yeah, what?
Maybe it's just like you know, like some Leonardo da Vinci shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like maybe it's just like he just kind of like has some way of doing it that's like 1,000 years old that was burned in the Library of Alexandria.
It does. Again, it feels like lost. I mean, that's why it's on, you know, Coast to Coast AM. And it feels like lost technology. Right. Like this guy unlocked the secrets that we all don't have. That kind of vibe.
Yeah.
Now, if you're wondering what Ed was doing when he wasn't building a castle at night, like how did he earn money? What did he do in his daily life? Well, Ed worked with, you guessed it, magnets and magnetism to the point where he would talk about it all the time. He'd run experiments and eventually he published I don't want to say book, but like a pamphlet in 1945. And he published many of them, but this is probably the most famous one. And I luckily have the entire damn thing for you. It's filled with graphs and explanations of how you can do the things he did at home. And this proves kind of that maybe he was onto something, but I'm not sure even I understand it. Looking through it, it seems like complete gibberish, but hilariously,
this is a lot.
Like Mathis was saying, he includes all these passages that one says, now you get the equipment and I will tell you so you can see for yourself that it is in the way I have told. Like he's like, go do it at home. Do what I've told you to do. Just do it at home yourself. Ed believed that all matter was being acted upon by individual magnets, which maybe he means monopoles when he says individual magnets. He thought
like magnets that are like not north and south, you mean?
Yeah, like, but all life is acting on them. Like, or it's acting on all life. And he thought scientists were wrong in understanding electricity, and they weren't understanding the whole spectrum of electromagnetics in the universe. Basically, he was like, I'm ahead of y'all.
Some of these drawings look like they're right out of the fucking Monroe Institute papers. The CIA ones, they're like, they look the same. It
looks like the Zodiac fucking clues.
Fucking, this is the gift to me, Jesse. Thank you for this.
I got you.
I want to do this.
Me too. I already downloaded one of his books. I'm gonna go read this for some shit.
This is for you, Mathis, from the book.
All right, let me read this. Yeah. Magnets in general are indestructible. For instance, you can burn wood and flesh. You can destroy the body, but you cannot destroy the magnets that hold together the body. They go somewhere else. Iron has more magnets than wood, and every different substance has a different number of magnets that hold the substance together. If I make a battery with copper for positive terminal and beef for negative terminal, I get more magnets out of it than when I use copper for positive terminal and sweet potato for negative terminal. From this, you can see that no two things are alike. Okay, I get what he's saying.
The man is literally saying that magnet and magnetized forces operate on all of us. Literally, the atoms in our body are held together by magnets or magnetic forces.
In the paper you linked on the first things, like the first couple of pages, like the Earth is a big magnet.
Yeah. Everything has magnetism.
Wrong, really. We do have a north and south pole, and it operates magnetically, and the poles swap every few thousand years over time and shit. He's not wrong. And again, it's why, going back into just my thing, the UAP thing, it would explain the movements on a scientific level instead of having to buy into the woo of it all. It's like, if these things are real, or even if the government has figured it out, which we know they have the T3RB ship, maybe this is what it is.
I mean, on one level, it sounds like a completely possible thing. On another level, it sounds like the kind of ramblings of a person who doesn't understand science, but thinks they do.
Yeah, well, you can see I understand science by going to my website and buying my survival kit for
right.
$250.
Get my alpha beta supplements or whatever. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's a new kind of man.
Right.
It's a new kind.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, Mathis, this is for you as well from his book.
Because the magnet can be shifted and concentrated, you can see that the metal is not the real magnet. The real magnet is the substance that is circulating in the metal.
Magnetricity.
Each particle in the substance is an individual magnet by itself.
Which is true, by the way. That's in the 2009 study. That's what they were saying.
Both North and South Pole individual magnets. They are so small, they can pass through anything. In fact, they can pass through metal easier than through the air. They are in constant motion, running one kind of magnets against the other kind. And if guided in the right channels, they possess perpetual power, which is what you were showing with the electricity tube and all that shit.
Yeah, and he said that he created a perpetual power system. That's what I was talking about earlier. That's like what he was using. That's what people thought was in that box at the top of the tripod.
And it just generates permanent electricity, like a zero
permanent magnetricity.
Magnetricity, right. Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Then it goes down under the triangle, probably to disperse it, which makes everything underneath it affected by it.
I don't know what to tell you. I have no clue. I have no idea how it would work.
UFO lore. I'm injecting UFO lore into how this would work.
Bless.
Sorry, go ahead.
Was this the real way he did it, or just what he would tell people to be a big shot to impress people? Maybe even impress his lost love, right? Who knows? But that's not all he wrote. Ed wrote many, many, many things about magnetism, but he also wrote a moral treatise about education of young women. And bring up young women. And
awesome.
He wrote this. I'm going to send you the complete.
This is not going to be problematic at all.
The full thing of what, there you go. There's the full thing. And this one's for Alex. Because this is what he says about, raising, a young girl.
Everything we do should be for some good purpose. But as everybody knows, there is nothing good that can come to a girl from a fresh boy. When a girl is 16 or 17 years old, she is as good as she ever will be. But when a boy is 16 years old, he is then fresher than in all his stages of development.
This dude's just an alpha sigma man. That's all.
No, he's grosso. He is then not big enough to work, but he is too big to be kept in a nursery and then to allow such a fresh thing to soil it. To soil a girl. It could not work on my girl. Now, I will tell you about soiling. Anything that is done, if it is done with the right party, it is all right. But when it is done with the wrong party, it is soiling. And concerning those fresh boys with the girls, it is wrong every time.
I genuinely, firmly believe in my bones that the 16-year-old girl left him for a young man. And he became obsessed over it. Like, obsessed.
He was like, life is not the end. Age is not the end. I will be eternal.
Yeah. And
magnets are the answer.
His thoughts on parenting, again, continue. Alex.
Oh boy. Here we go. In case a girl's mama thinks that there is a boy somewhere who needs experience, then she herself could pose as an experimental station for that fresh boy to practice on and so save the girl. Nothing can hurt her anymore. She has already gone through all the experience that can be gone through, and so in her case, it would be all right.
Again,
if a boy had sex with his girlfriend's mom instead.
If a young man fancies a young girl, he should not be having sex with a young girl, but instead that young girl's mother.
Like a porn plot.
It is absolutely
porn.
Crazy stuff. But that is, again, it seems like he is just very, very weird. But I don't know if that adds to the mystery of him or subtracts. You know what I mean? Because to me, again, it seems like he is.
I think it's evidence that he was a human man of the era. What he was.
It's you know what it reminds me. Oh man, what is that movie that literally just came out with the Hulk and oh my god.
Oh, Brave New World.
No. Mark
Ruffalo. The Hulk.
It's Mark Ruffalo and oh my god, she won an Oscar for it.
Oh, the one where he tries to educate her.
Yes, and she's like, and he gets really upset when he's like, you fooled yourself. Like, and she's like, you seem boring. I don't know. That's the vibe I got here, where he like tried to control this woman, and she's like, no, I'm gonna go get with this young guy, and he's like, I hate you. That's the vibe across the board. Like, there's no reason for him to write this other pamphlet unless it's really eating away at him.
Yeah, it's clearly like it traumatized the man.
However, I did read a theory, and I want to share this with you because this is completely in the Mathis space. And if I'm in this water with you, I might as well read it. But I read this and was like, nah, this is stupid, but I'm going to include it anyway.
All right.
According to this theory, he wrote all these pamphlets and all this information about magnetism and the secrets of unlocking it and all these different things. And then just out of the blue wrote a book about how to raise a young girl. That makes no sense considering he has no children and especially no daughters. So in some circles, people see this book as actually a secret codex of unlocking everything The others were the start. This is the secret where he tells you actually what to do, because apparently, according to them, because this is the Stonehenge of America, Stonehenge, the main stones were called maidens or young girls. And so potentially all of this is to for decryption, because in it, he is really giving you everything he says about young girls and how to handle young girls really is about stones. And it's the secrets of how to erect these stones.
Do you know where that rumor started? That feels like such an early internet.
I don't, and I think it's hilarious. I definitely don't believe it at all.
No, that sounds such.
But the fact that that's out there, I think, is hilarious to me.
I want to that can't. Yeah, that's wild. That's so dumb.
Hilariously, going back to what Alex was saying about the girl, years later, they actually track down the girl he was supposed to have married. And they show him pictures of the Coral Castle. And they say, he did this for you. Because I guess that's his Sweet 16, right? They said, he did this for you. And her response was, yeah, he was always a weird guy.
Good Lord.
And I think that's exactly right.
Okay. Interesting.
He was always a weird guy is like, that's one of the most he was always a weird guys that I've ever heard in my life.
That's
he was
insane.
always a weird guy.
What a reply.
Yeah.
Because it almost is like a disappointing reply. In a way, for the legend, you almost wanted to be like, he was a monster. But no, he's just a weird dude.
She said, like, I'm happy I didn't marry. It's fine. I'm glad. So, yeah, it seems on the surface that Ed was just maybe a jilted, weird guy who was attempting to win her back in the weirdest way possible over the course of 28 years. Maybe, but also there's this weird magnetricity and anti-gravity thing going on here that, no one truly knows. There's also just some issues with the story, right? There are things that don't necessarily check out, but maybe they did. Like, a great example is when Ed first comes to Florida and he meets Moser. Moser takes him back home to live with him. And because he had tuberculosis, his wife was like, I'll take care of him. And so potentially she just nursed him back to health. Like, when would he have found the time to magnetize himself with magnetricity? Like, I have no clue. But apparently she nursed him back to health. I think it's quite possible that Ed, over, the course of his life, learned all the things he would have needed to know to quarry this stone. Like, from his father being a stonemason, to working with guys in the forests of Oregon and California, to cut down these giant ass trees and move them. He could have learned the techniques of how to do all of that. And then with wench, rope, mechanical principles, just basic physics, he could have just moved it by himself. The only thing is, again, it was by himself. If he was in the woods, he'd have a whole team of people moving these giant trees. He was, again, by himself at night, which is very, very weird. Again, he may have just been a weird dude that we just can't understand, because sometimes weird people are too weird. But maybe Ed discovered things we weren't ready for. Either way, it's because of all the unknowns. The creation of the Coral Castle remains a mystery, and one that lingers today. And if you want to look it up, you can just Google it. Or if you're in Florida, you can go there, and
you can go.
All of you can walk in, you can look at it all, you can touch it all. It is giant ass stone. Every photo does not do justice for how big it is. Well, the property itself isn't massive. The man built giant stone walls and giant stone, like, I don't want to say statues, but like monoliths by himself, potentially for a girl who broke his heart, which is a whole thing. And
it's traumatized forever. So we discover the secrets of magnetism.
Yeah. And that is the weird thing behind him, because you don't know if he said everything he said just to be like, I'm impressive. Tell my girl that I'm very smart. Like, I don't have answers. And that, I think, is the interesting thing about the Coral Castle. There are no answers. Man died, didn't tell anyone anything, and that's it. There are parts and pieces from when he was working that are still available to look at, and he has his pamphlets that tell you what he said he did, but we don't know. And I don't think we'll ever know. And that is the mystery of the Coral Castle.
Insane.
Yeah, I found an original, like a scanned original printing of the book, and at the bottom of the book, there's like pictures of him with his power generator, which is crazy.
Yeah, his quote unquote perpetual
I guess,
motion
yeah,
device or whatever.
Where is
I'm
that?
gonna send you a picture of it right now.
Yeah, I want to see that.
Yeah, with the caption underneath it. Good old Gyatso.
Gyatso. God damn.
There you go.
Why does it look like Final Fantasy, dude?
Yeah, because it's but there it is, right? Like there it is. Ed Liedelskins demonstrating the electrical generator he designed and invented. It was his only source of power for his radio and experiments. So is what the snapshot says underneath it.
I mean that alone is
like
crazy.
A skeleton
like
also.
I don't know the answer to this, but I wanted to, was he on the electrical grid? Was there an electrical grid? I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think he was. That's the other thing about this.
That's the other weird, because you go further down in the book and it's got like statistics of the coral castle. This is a book from 1936. Altogether, there are approximately 1,000 tons of coral rock, south and west walls. He gives like, there are a total of approximately 240 tons of coral rock in this wall, the east wall. And it says, which contains the following: Crescent of the East, 23 tons. Planet Mars, 18 tons. Planet Saturn, 18 tons. Obelisk, 28.5 tons. The fuck does that mean?
These are, so he would,
like you know what I mean?
They're literally,
like,
he made a thing that looked like a moon. He made a thing that looked like planets. What's crazy about it is if you go to like, if you ever have the chance to go to, I'm sure you can do it anywhere in the world that has these, but when I went to South America, every place that I went to go explore, they were like, well, they were super into, the stars and astronomy, and they would, craft their things to fit the angles. So when like light would shine or whatever, Ed did the same thing. So there are holes and pinpoints where light, when the sun rises, things he clearly was operating on a level of a well-read person, where he had all the knowledge of when he was a kid and he didn't, he couldn't do much because he was frail and weak, that he just made his brain big, and he has all this knowledge that he then used again to make this, which I think is incredibly funny.
Really, just like a kid who found a hyper focus that he loved. Like this was his.
It sounds like a lot of Minecraft kids, to be honest.
Yes, yeah. The touch of the tism,
and he did it. He did it in real life.
It's fucking crazy.
That's
the mystery
nutty.
Is fascinating because again, the scientific shit is. I'm just so curious how easy it is, quote unquote, for to build what he says he built. I don't know.
It's just amazing when somebody gets away clean in a historic way like this, where like there just isn't an answer. It's just like he got out of there. The mystique is still alive. Like who fucking knows? It seems like he has a secret method at the very least.
Yeah.
Even if it's completely mundane.
Yeah. I mean, and again, like the idea of him working at night. Sure, that's mysterious. It could be because he just didn't want to be bugged by people who were constantly bugging him. But also, the idea of him being like the only solution is to work at night adds more to the mystery. And it just keeps getting, foggier and foggier, and you just don't know. And I wish I had answers for you. This is one of those ones that there really is no answer. And people have tried to debunk it. There's videos online that explain the tripod was using those winches and the systems of just natural physics we understand. But again, he's just one dude.
A tiny dude at that.
Yeah. So like
who was sick at some point.
None of it makes a lot of sense. And so even if it is completely mundane, the fact that he by himself did this is incredible.
The last thing I'll say is in that book at the very beginning, and this is probably almost certainly a coincidence, but something that doesn't carry over into like the digital copy of the 9 pages you had is there's a symbol on one of the pages that has the copyright. And it is the shape of essentially, did you like the what is known as like the lantern shape for like, remember
Green Lanterns?
Kind of, but remember, the smiling man injured cold.
Oh yeah.
Thing. Yeah. Hang on.
Yes.
I'm sending you another Gyatso.
It's nothing like the Green Lanterns, right? It's not anything like those. They just fly through space with a ring.
But they have that symbol.
Oh yeah, there you go. I sent a photo of it.
Yeah, that has like the two triangles or the two, and they're pointing in towards sort of a yin yang thing.
Is this?
That's what I'm saying, and that's what I'm saying. Like that's just sitting. It's on all. That's all that's on that page. Is just the copyright page,
and that's what's weird.
And
that's
that
like
symbol.
Yeah, that's very weird because it could just be he likes the way that looks, but also it screams ancient mysticism.
Yeah, really does. the yin and yang at the center.
With the two black pyramids on the outside. Like, it definitely adds to the lore, which again, he could just be a very good marketer.
Yeah, absolutely. Very possible. Very talented man.
But also, there's some weird stuff here that you just can't explain because he was so very weird.
This topic was fantastic, Jesse. Thank you very much.
Coral Castle, man, like,
I can see why people wanted to know.
There's some kind of flavor that's very like American to this. That's really interesting about it. I don't know how to describe it, but it's like the fact that the guy's Latvian and he came here and he did this crazy thing that makes no sense. It seems impossible. And mostly it's an advertising. Like he like made money off it, but he like invented his own reality down there. Like, I don't know. I just don't know. It should be in the Museum of Jurassic Technology. It's fascinating.
And, I mean, it is a historical site now. So it is being preserved. And so if you're in Florida,
it's that important.
Yeah.
There's something real about it then.
Yeah. Like it's just, going back to what Alex said about it being very American, it also feels very Floridian. Like just the idea of it and how it's just so strange. It feels very like, especially since it's so far south, it feels very Florida Keys. Like anyone who's ever been to the Florida Keys, it's wild.
This gives if a meth head in Florida's crazy ideas actually worked.
I mean, if it wasn't for the cops stopping him, I'm sure one day there'd be like a wild meth head, structure somewhere. Like, who knows, man?
I'm just when they think they figured out the key to the universe, except this guy may have actually done it.
Yeah, it's a fascinating topic. It's one that I'm sure there's many, many, many videos that exist on, because again, literally, you could probably go find a YouTube video right now where someone goes to it. Like, you can just walk into it right now. There's nothing stopping you.
Awesome. Next time I'm in Florida, God knows if that'll be ever. I would make a point to go see that. That's fucking cool.
Yeah, if you're in Miami or you're near Miami, literally 25 minutes south.
On that, boys, let's go do a mini-sode because we're going to talk about something tangentially related. Like I said, light has been made a super solid, and we talk about that.
That's fine. That
doesn't make sense. I have a crazy one too, actually, though. Real talk.
I'm excited. Thank you, Jesse, very much for hosting this episode. That was, like I said, that topic was, I want to go read all of his books because I'm so fucking curious. What the fuck?
I know that I want to start to read one of his books and then stop because it's crazy.
Yeah, fair enough. But we are off to patreon.com/Chilluminati to go do a mini-sode. Please go check out theyeti.com/Chilluminati as well.
Buy that little boy.
Plush, please,
support this show you love. Get a little toy for your shelf.
He's going to be there for a month at most more, I think. So go grab it while you can.
Get a one-day toy for your dog.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Thank you guys so much as always. We'll see you next week. We appreciate you. We love you. Goodbye.
Bye.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Chilluminati podcast. As always, I'm one of your hosts, Mike Martin, joined by I don't know who they are. There's two. What? Terrence Hill and Bud Spencer.
No.
Neo and Trinity.
No.
I don't understand, and I probably never will. Let me just tell you right now that there's two. Leon Kennedy and Claire Redfield.
I'm telling you, I think he literally just looked up famous duos.
Cheech and Chong.
And has just been going through the list ever since.
I'm trying to dig deep. Which one of you is Dick Powell?
Me? Your name's Jesse Cox.
I want Chilluminati. I want my Martin. I want Chilluminati. I want my Martin.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Chilluminati podcast. As always, I'm one of your hosts, Mike Martin, joined by Alex and Jesse. shooting star across the sky that's actually a UFO.